All right, everyone. Good evening and welcome to our March open mic night. Tonight we're going to be talking about conservation and crop rotation for urban and small farms. But before we do that, we're going to hear from one of our awesome partners, USDA NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service, Colleen Kiefer, and her partner over here, Naya Seegers. They both, along with others, help with all of the equip, and they're going to talk about their financial assistance programs, but they're the two that make it happen along with a few other folks. So I'm going to turn it over to Colleen tonight, who's going to talk a little bit about those programs and what we can expect.
Hey, hi, everybody. I'm Colleen Kiefer. I'm the district conservationist for NRCS for Prince George's County. We also, our office also serves Baltimore City and Washington, D.C. also. So we do focus quite a bit on urban, although there are offices in every county that can help anybody. Just wanted to quickly go through our programs. Don't want to take a lot of your time. Everyone's here to see Che, not me, listen to me talk about programs. We do have a few programs that specifically can help and give you financial assistance for conservation, crop rotation, and other related soil health, crop management systems. And so I just want to make you guys aware of those. So as you're like listening to Che and getting learning from all of that, keep in mind there are some financial resources out there to help you implement this in your operation. The first programs that we have, there's two programs that are very, very similar, and that is our EQIP Environmental Quality Incentives Program, which some of you may be familiar with, and then there's RCPP, which is Regional Conservation Partnership Program. Essentially, these, for all purposes, are the same program. They have a couple little different rules, but by and large, they're the same program. What they do is they will reimburse you to implement conservation practices on your farm, urban farm, community garden. One of the practices we pay for is conservation crop rotation in that. A lot of times people, to make it, sweeten the pot a little, they'll try to, we'll lump a bunch of practices together. So implementing a system of conservation crop rotation, cover cropping, mulching, nutrient management, things like that, working to build soil health. And that can be a nice little annual payment to help you with the cost of seed, help you, buy in some materials to help you do that. The other thing is that you may be aware that this also pays for things like low tunnels. If you have toxic soil, like soils with heavy metals in them, or maybe it's like a paved area or has a lot of rubble in the soil, we can pay for raised beds. High tunnels, low tunnels, including like insect netting, which can be kind of expensive, so it's a nice to get reimbursed for that. The main differences between these programs, they're both reimbursable. One is EQIP offers the option of an advance payment. It is 50% of your contracted amount. You may spend more than that, but 50% of what you're contracted for, we can provide an advance payment for EQIP. The downside of EQIP right now is that it's very competitive. All of these programs are competitive across the state. EQIP specifically right now, if you're looking at doing something this year, there's not a ton of money left with everything going on. People may be aware of the federal government, there's some stuff going on. A lot of that money has been spent already. And so it's not in long term, if that advance payment is really going to make a difference for you, I would be looking to next year, and where hopefully everything, we'll see what's happening. But anyway, no, that's probably a next year thing. The other program, RCPP, unfortunately does not offer the advance payment, but it pays more. It pays 100% of the calculated rate. Again, not necessarily 100% of the amount you would spend, but the amount that we can pay, it pays a higher rate for it. So you wouldn't get the advance payment, but at the end of the day, you would get more money for the practice. So anyway, those are the two things. I will also quickly mention that we also have a conservation stewardship program that can be a really good fit for urban farmers. The thing here is that it's a rewards-based program, and it does require a cropping history, and it does require that you've been growing on that parcel or wherever you're growing for at least a season, so we can document your management. So it's not necessarily, if you're just starting out, this is not the program to start with. Start with the EQIP, start with the RCVP, and then when you have some time in, then we move to the CSP program. But it's also a good program, and it can take you like above and beyond maybe just your regular conservation crop rotation. It can pay for other small, like other practices that tend to be lower, lower dollar amounts upfront. Things like, doing maybe some mulching. Some people have upgraded their crop rotation to include annual pollinators. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get by like a little bag of sunflower seeds. And then you get the bulk of your payment is your reward-based payment for all of the good things that you're already doing on your farms. So, those are the three main programs. Like I said, right now for this year, the RCPP is really what we have left in money right now. There's about 900,000 set aside specifically for urban farmers in central Maryland and DC. So that's going to be a really good opportunity for folks this year. If you are looking long-term, CSP, EQIP can also be really good options, but based on what's already come our way and the massive reduction in funds that we're probably looking at for this year, it's a tough year. If you're not already working with us, it's probably a next year thing. So, does anyone have any questions?
Sorry,
what is? Okay, go ahead. You guys question first.
What is RCVP stand for?
Regional Conservation Partnership Program, and it's essentially EQIP, but we have a partner organization who like writes up a grant to specifically get this money, and in this case, this partner worked with us to specifically set aside money for urban farms, so it's nice because it targets us. And
then what is it for?
the exact same stuff as EQIP.
Okay.
It's the exact same program, it's just a different pot of money and with slightly different rules with it, in regards to advance payments and the final payments, but everything else is the same.
So online, someone asked, are there any funding programs that cover soil testing and soil microscopy?
Soil microscopy?
Yeah.
So
That's a good question.
there may be some things that we haven't really explored a lot. In the past, we had a soil scientist who would do all of our heavy metal soil testing for free. But our machine is broken, and given the fact that things are happening, I don't foresee us getting a new one anytime soon. So unfortunately, we aren't able to offer that right now. There are potentially some ways that other ways through EQIP that we haven't used in the past, that we could pay for more advanced soil testing, and that would be more towards like looking for like your heavy metals and other chemicals like that. I know there is a rate for that. No one has really signed up for that yet, so I don't know all that would be, if someone wants to be the guinea pig on that, that would be a great opportunity. As far as regular soil testing, not really, but like Naya or any of us from the district can come out and help with those samples. And, for a smaller farm, you're looking at, for a basic soil test, you're talking like $10-20 probably. So, the expense on that is pretty minimal to be honest. And then the other thing I would also mention is that, the, Million Acre Challenge they have funding specifically to do the Cornell Healthy Soils test. So if you're looking into like more of that like biological soil health, like really getting in the weeds on it, they have some really good funding opportunities through that to pay for the testing and then for associated practices with your soil health. Yeah. So. All right, well, thanks everybody, it's good to see y'all.
Thank you.
All right, I forgot to do introductions. I get caught up with the technology sometimes. But my name is Kim Rush-Lynch, and I work in the Urban Ag Conservation Program here at the Soil Conservation District. I know many of you already, and I just wanted the staff here that works with the district to also introduce themselves. Terry, Terry doesn't want to. Come on, Terry.
Mary Hampton, opportunity.
And she does a lot of outreach and a lot of things. So we appreciate Terry very much. She organized a trip to the flower show last month for us. So thank you, Terry, for all of your work. And then also I want to introduce my colleague and partner in crime over here, Jason Sierra.
Jason, everybody, my conservation plan here at the district, in the urban ag office. Also the chat moderator for tonight, so if you have any questions, ask them in the chat, and I'll do my best to ask them at the right time, so. Yeah.
Thank you, Jason. Jason's doing an awesome job here. We're really happy to have him. So we do introductions of the farmers right now, but I think we're gonna go ahead and move into the program. And then at the end, as we have time, we can do some additional introductions and networking, just in the interest of time. So before we get started, do you want us to pass that out, Che? And you can come on
Yeah,
up and we'll get your,
now.
And-
Two right there. Yeah.
and Che, I have,
Yeah.
thanks, Che.
Is it two different things?
You understand? Oh, look.
And Che, we have a little gifty for you.
Uh-oh.
So thank you for,
Like it was great.
yeah, it's a cup. You won't tell the drink you put in there. And then we also, here's the cooker for you.
I work for a university.
Go ahead and get started here, because it's pretty good.
All right, so. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I really appreciate it. You know, it means a lot to kind of see everybody here, all the growers. So I guess everybody here is a grower. They are growing something, so that's a good thing. And briefly, my name is Che Axum. I'm the Director of Urban Ag for Guardian Education for UDC. So I wear a few hats. So I wear that hat as a director, but I also, they kind of hoodwinked me in when I first got this job to be also the farm manager. So I was like, they gave me two large positions with one salary. So it's all good. Better to have one salary than no salary. So, just briefly, I didn't grow up farming. I did not grow up farming, did not grow up on a farm, had nothing to do with farm. My background, when I first started out in school, going to school, I was in the family of a family full of pharmacists. So my dad was a pharmacist, his brother was a pharmacist. We had another aunt who was a pharmacist, and we had some other people who were pharmacists, and so that was surely my route that they wanted me to take. But when I didn't take it, they wanted to kick me out the family. When I told those folks that I wanted to go farm and go back to school for agriculture, they said, "Well, what? You want to do what?" They said, "We're trying to get off the land. You want to go back to the land?" I got it. But anyway, I got them. They converted later on because they would ask me for food that I was growing. It worked out.
Growing the mess.
Yeah.
Tell me you're growing a mess.
Yeah. So anyway, so I went. But like I said, I didn't start. I started out kind of late on it. So. But I was lucky that I had some lucky breaks early on. Really, that's a very lucky break early on. Of who I worked with, I got a job at USDA in Beltsville. Right before they had a 3 or 4 year job freeze by Ronald Reagan. So I got in there just at that time. So when I got in there, I was able to look around and say, "Oh well, what agriculture? What is that? Let me check it out." So. Went back to school, University of Maryland, got a degree in crop and soil science agronomy, and really got interested in farming. But I worked for USDA in Beltsville for like 20 years. 20 years doing research with small fruit research, brambles, blueberries, strawberries, currants, all those kind of things. Growing those things in different types of food systems. So fast forward, I just. Became just really in love with agronomy and crop and soil science. So, I mean, it's just my passion. But I came across, one of the things that I'll get into the talk, but one of the things, I real early on, people struggle with, and I wondered what it meant, because I was kind of, lucky, or I guess, I don't know, but having plants and having diseases on my plants was something I really didn't have too much of. So maybe, I don't know what I was doing. I probably had a few diseases, but it was nothing that really kind of made me just stand up and just kind of scratch my head at night and do that. So there was always this concept of crop rotation. How do you rotate? How do you rotate a crop? Why do you rotate? So I guess many of you guys who have a bed, whatever you're growing, you do rotate crops. I assume that, don't you? Do you grow tomatoes in the same bed 3 years in a row? So different things like that. But then I begin to think about it, just thinking about, trying to, it was real cool to kind of learn all these plant family names, like, all these, Solanaceae and all these, and it's really cool to know that, but getting into the rotation of these crops. You have this in the bed 1 year, next year, where do you put this bed, where do you put this crop. So I really began to look at it, and I thought about it. And I thought about, rotations, maybe how they should be looked at after I kind of read an article. And the person in the article rotated crops not by plant families, but by what crops needed. And I thought that was very novel specifically because, sometimes we do, or maybe we don't. Sometimes we might add too many amendments, we might fertilize too much. Rain comes a lot more often than it does in the past, and a lot of nutrients just kind of wash their profile now. So the amount of rain you maybe got in a week in the past, maybe you'll get it in a day or 2 days now. So that really affects sometimes your growing and what you're growing and nutrient uptake and all that. So I began to really look at that, and I thought about, I said, but you know what, it's key because, us living in the Chesapeake Bay region, we really should be in tune to what we put in the ground. Because eventually, a lot of the stuff we put in the ground, when we're gardening, farming, on our lawns or whatever, it goes straight to where? It's a thing. So I thought about it, I said, wouldn't it be great if, we could be better stewards of the land? And we were probably, and really being, kind of looking at this way we're gonna talk about, it's gonna make you a more intelligent farmer. You're gonna come out being a more intelligent farmer. So I passed out a copy of a soil test that we had gotten in it's actually when I first got that 2013. So we'll talk a little bit about this later on. But I think soil testing is so important. It's so important that I learned how to do it. And I kind of, when I used to University of Maryland, I was there, they had a soil lab, but soil lab, I think after a year or two after I left, and the soil lab closed, something like that. But anyway, I was talking to people about, looking at soil tests that you could do, and I don't like to take money out of anybody's pocket for them, doing soil tests for people, but there are some soil tests, that preliminary soil tests the farmer can do. Now, these are not heavy metal tests, but these are just testing for 3 main characters, farming, NPK, nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. And they test for organic matter, but that's a test that you can buy which are pretty reliable. They're very reliable. And they don't cost a lot. And so I've always maintained this too, I like to test the test.
Yeah.
I like to test the test if I can, to the extent that I can. Even sometimes when I would have a soil test like this and they would do a thorough test like this, I would have another lab sometime where I could send that same sample too. And then I want to get it back, and I want to look at both of them.
That's what's up.
I say, oh, okay, so then I can get a better understanding, because people do soil tests so differently, different places, different ways to do tests and things like that, so, and I think, when you really are able, even like taking a soil test, either like do preliminary testing yourself, or even sending your sample off, and it coming back, and you making that correction, that takes your farming skills way up there. More so than most people who are farm. Because, and it's not a lot you need to do, but it's just a little bit of arithmetic, a little bit of multiplication and division problems to really determine, how much, nutrients that you might, put on the soil if needed, if you need it. So, that's why I was really kind of thinking about this and this kind of, I'm still trying to get good at this. I'm still trying to get very good at this. So I can just kind of do this in my sleep, like some of the people I talk to from time to time who've been doing this for a while. I mean, I call them sometimes, they don't wanna get off the phone. They just wanna talk about soil testing and cation exchange and base saturation, which I love to talk about, but. You know, people like that are the people who are really interested. So, we can go to the next slide.
There's also a clicker up there. I can-
Oh, okay, it is, oh, okay,
Sometimes.
okay, I don't wanna push the wrong one, I guess,
It should be one on the right, but it's not working out here either.
well, I pointed to there, right?
No, I don't think it's you. I think it's, there's a
Okay,
reason
good.
it's locked up.
But so, in saying all that, you know, we'll talk about soil a little bit, but, you know, the crop rotation thing doesn't need to be a challenge, but I think there's some ways if you look at it differently, the things you can do to, like I said, make you a much better grower. You will definitely, if you can understand some concepts and looking at the soil test and reading it and knowing what to do and what not to do, you will definitely pat yourself on the back for a major accomplishment, major accomplishment.
I'm sorry, Jay, I don't know why that error is even on that screen. I can't.
So I guess everybody here have done soil tests and are doing soil tests periodically, like maybe once every 2 years, every 3 years, or something like that. That would be definitely advised. Because, you know, my favorite kind of saying is that you can't manage what you can't measure. Very difficult. And sometimes, you know, everybody can read that, but, yeah. Yeah, putting, you know, overdoing it, putting too much in the soil is a very difficult process to make it and get it out. But you know what right chemical to put back in the soil to do it. I've heard stories of farmers even putting down too much lime in the soil. I mean, there are farmers I've heard about some places, you know, they put down too much this or that, and they've had to almost walk away from their fields for years because they can't fix it once you put it in. It's always good if you can to put a small amount in, spoon feed the soil, spoon feed it for the minerals. You know, just give it a little bit, you know. And then like here, there are a few different tests, you know, there's Morgan extracts, modified Morgan extract, tests for acid extraction. But the key thing you need to remember in the soil test is this. I had some guys come to the farm today. So they had this machine. They had this kind of $7,000 thing they were trying to sell to the university. And they said, well, what thing you need to do is point it at the soil. It'll tell you everything that's in the soil. It'll tell you nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus. It'll tell you the heavy metals. They were like, yeah, it really works. And I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, can it tell you what's plant available? Because that's all that counts. It can be in the soil, but if the plant can't see it, utilize it, and take it up, it might as well be in your pocket, whatever it is. So you really want to look at plant available nutrients. So some of these tests, like here, and if you go to the soil test, we'll go back when I get to the soil test again. We'll look at some of the tests that they do, which will really tell you specifically what is plant available. And that's all that kind of really matters. What your plant can see and what your plant can take up. You might have nutrients in your soil that are there, but if they're not ready for the plant to take up, they have to be converted to some form, and sometimes they'll be ready to be taken up, but at that time, currently, they're not ready to be taken up. So that soil test that you do at that time is actually a snapshot of really what's going on in the soil at that time. Tells you exactly the basic constituents of the soil, pH, whatever it is at that time. So these are some of the tests, you know, that they use in some of these plant, these acid extraction. So, but there are many ways, I mean, there are other ways to do tests. I mean, sometimes you can get soil and you can put it into a calorimeter or thing like that, and you can kind of burn it, and then you see what's left, and that'll tell you what's there. Or like most of the tests that I really rely on, and probably you guys wanna rely on, like acid extraction, where they get your soil, they'll mix with the acid, they'll extract the acid, and they'll look at what's in that acid that was extracted. So that basically tells you then and there, really what's in the soil at that point in time, but also more importantly, what is plant available. That's what these definitely. Okay, next.
Sorry.
Okay. So, I know you guys, the young lady was here earlier was talking about pH, about lead and contaminants. So sometimes, contaminants, but many times contaminants can be a problem. Lead, cadmium, arsenic, all those things are problems, heavy metals, they're very bad sometimes. But many times, sometimes if you know how to read plant tissue and how plants look, they will tell you if they are infected by these things. They will have striations, different colorations in the plant leaves and things like that. The fruit might have different kind of things going on. The plant will talk to you if you know how to listen to it.
Yes,
If you know how, but you really have to look at the leaves, and every plant is different. A corn plant looks different. Potassium deficiency looks different than a tomato plant with potassium deficiency. But if you get to really understand, and there are books out about it, plant nutrition books, and they'll just tell you like how these plants look when they have certain, nutrient deficiencies. But for certain, like, heavy metals we were talking about earlier, sometimes, those heavy metals are very pH dependent. So sometimes they can be in the soil, but if the pH is too low or too high, they tend to move, and they might move into the plants and be taken up by the plants. Sometimes the pH is at the right level. Sometimes they really don't even bother the plant. They don't move into the plant. But they're very pH dependent. But this kind of graph right here kind of just tells you a little bit about, why pH is it's important. It's important to have the right pH. And you can see here, like, if you look at this graph right here, you can see between like 5, 6, and maybe about 6, 8 or something like that, or maybe even getting up to 7 a little bit, that most of these things are available. And even sometimes at the lower pH, at the 5 level, you get some of the trace minerals. Molybdenum, copper, cobalt, zinc, and iron, some of those things are available too. So that's why it's so important, to do that soil test to know where you're at as far as your pH is concerned, and knowing how to, if you need to adjust the pH a little bit, if you need to bring it down a little bit, because that really determines what nutrients are available. And as you can look at this, if I was talking to Sunshine earlier about health. If you're talking about health and things like that, all these nutrients that the plant needs for optimum health, our body needs these same nutrients for optimum health. So if they're not in the plant, ain't no immaculate conception, they ain't just gonna pop up in the plant. So they gotta be in the soil, and you gotta make them available to get up into the plant. So that's why it's really important to just do that pH and have a look at it. Okay, next one. Yeah, sure.
Somebody asked, don't different plants have different uptake?
They do.
Does plant available nutrients include fungi that might be used in microremediation of soils?
Say it one more time.
Does plant available nutrients include fungi that might be used in microremediation of soils?
Good question. Remediation of soil. Well, I guess for me, if I was looking at a particular fungi and I wanted to use that for bioremediation of the soil, I would definitely see at what level of optimum usefulness that fungi would be, what pH it would be. So I guess, do you put this fungi in the soil when you want to remediate the soil? After you got your soil and you see some problems with it, do you put it in, or you hoping that it's already in there? But definitely, everything, we're pH dependent. So I don't see why that fungi or the microbe would not be also pH dependent. So that would be the thing that I would want to ask, especially if you especially if you're gonna buy something, a product or something like that, they say, well, you, hey, buy this fungi, put it in your soil. And see if it's gonna do what it said it's gonna do. Okay, what pH is the fungi supposed to be most effective at? That's what I would do. Yeah, so, yeah, so, but, you know, it is important, the pH thing is important. So here's the soil test, that I gave you guys, and this was the soil test that we did, at the farm a couple of years back. But you can see, and this is a place Lancaster Ag product, and they still do soil tests, they're very good. And, if you get the guy, Ruben on the phone, and you ask him some questions, he will talk to you for 4 hours.
It's passion.
Yeah. So, but when you look at it, you know, look at some of these levels here. But what I want to show you up here for the soil test is that they got a different kind of testing that they do. They do a, soluble nutrient extraction, ammonium acetate spray, I'll tell you about that one, water soluble test. Percent base saturation, these are your bases, what percentage of those do you have on the soil colloid? But this right here, the soluble nutrient extraction, that really tells you right there what is truly plant available. So you're looking at these numbers here. Some of your desired levels, they came up with these numbers, which are your desired levels. And these are the levels in your soil for this soluble nutrient extraction. The ammonium acetate and bray is stuff that's really held more tightly to the colloid, to the soil colloid, because you know the soil has a negative charge, and a lot of these things, most of these things have positive charges, so that is what holds them to the soil colloid. And so they look at that, they look at things that are water soluble, activity, definitely organic matter, cation exchange capacity, the ability of your soil colloid to exchange cations back and forth, you know, plus and minus and plus, and those things go back and forth. So this, you know, like I said, you're not gonna probably get this overnight, but this is kind of, you know, where you probably want to get to really understanding as you become a more intelligent grower, where you want to be at. So, and like I said, I don't know, where does soil test go from here, Kim? What waypoint?
So we leave it up to the cooperators, but we've used Waypoint, AgriLab, University of Delaware, especially when
Okay,
we
yeah.
do metals testing.
Yeah, so they got a lot of places to do it. So my thing would be, my only takeaway from here is just understand some soil tests and just know that people do soil tests differently. And then at some point, you want to get to be able to read a soil test to determine, you know, what kind of changes you need to make as far as your soil. Whatever place you get your testing done at, doesn't make a difference, but you just want to be able to read it and become comfortable with it and not let this kind of thing looking at it and just frighten you into just like throw it in the drawer the next week. So yeah, so, all right, Kim, we can go to the next one. We can get into it. All right, so, yeah, the rotation game. So, getting back to what I talked about rotation earlier, but so I talked about rotation instead of, you know, really thinking about rotating stuff from a plant family perspective. It was probably the article I read, it talks about looking at it from what plants need. So, obviously, leafy greens, they really need nitrogen. All plants need nitrogen too, but leafy greens more important, they need nitrogen. If you go counterclockwise, your root crops. The root crop, what's the main thing that they need? The nutrient that they need. Anybody know what that might be? Potassium. Okay. Then you're going clockwise, crops are fruiting crops. So any crop that has a flower that produces a fruit. I mean, it could be eggplant, tomato, pepper, all those are fruits, botanically speaking. But any of those plants like that, watermelon, cantaloupe, all those things like that, anything that produces a flower, then that flower turns into a fruit. One of the main constituents and things that plant needs to really have more flowers and set more flowers and more productive flowers would be phosphorus. And then going top over there, that would be where you end up at, legume crops. So they need they don't need that much nitrogen, but they need some of those other things, especially if they're gonna flower and produce a fruit. But also, this is where, you get into, using, in this system, I'll show you next coming up, get into using cover crops. This was an excellent year. And I didn't really get to do it as much as I had hoped, but it was an excellent year to use cover crops. This is like at the end of the year, like September, October, November, just put cover crop, like whether it be rye or clover or something on your soil. And it was excellent for a couple of reasons, because number one, it got really cold, and it protected the soil a little bit. But also there's certain cover crops that I've used in the past. If I want to really deal with like weed proliferation in the springtime, there's certain cover crops that I would put down. And those cover crops really just basically they die. Like some cover crops just go dormant, then they come back growing again in the springtime. But there's some cover crops like oats and spring oats and things like that. If you get them up a little bit, this winter would have definitely killed them. And so you would have this, it would have put roots down, and then you have this nice mat of brown cover on your soil right now. And basically, you really wouldn't even have to till that up. You could plant right into that. You would not have to worry about weeds coming up for a long time if you kept it, kept it correctly, if you planted it dense enough. Okay, can we go to the next? Okay. So I wanted to, I don't know, how much time we got, Ken?
About a half an hour.
Half an hour? Okay. So if y'all thought y'all were just gonna come and sit and relax, think again. That doesn't work here.
Okay.
Yeah, just give everybody a sheet you guys can share. And we're gonna see some diagrams of what we're doing at our farm. And here's some markers. Some markers, and we're gonna kind of play with it. Kind of. So basically, yeah.
Ripping the papers in half? Are we ripping them in half and using the whole thing?
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
And sometimes.
Unless I have to carry it back home.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah. Yeah.
Does every table have one now? And for those of you who are online, go ahead and grab yourself a piece of paper
Yeah.
or post your board, whatever you have. Markers.
Okay. So you can kind of see, the diagram, what's really going on. So let's say this was, fall, 2024. Basically, what you would have done, you would do your soil test. Get your soil test. And then at that point, you add, whether you're adding compost, manure if you have it, if you want to use it, adding nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, your choice or whatever you want to use. So if you have compost, that's good, you're making your own compost. Out of all your leaf material, plant material, you're making compost. So you got a lot of stuff in there, you got nitrogen, also got some potassium and phosphorus, you probably don't have that much in there. So manure, if you choose to do that, you can use, your manure, if your manure has some nutrients in it, but probably, I don't know, depending on, maybe not so much or a lot, but again, my guys on the farm, they've been using a lot of compost. They love to use compost and they buy compost. And I'm telling the guys, at some point this year, we have to test the compost. Because because some compost is made differently with different things in it, and even manure, it's all different. So, but like I said, again, you cannot manage what you don't manage. You buying compost every year, putting it on your soil. You don't know how much salt's in the compost. I don't know what's in it. I said, God, you gotta start testing the compost. Please. Kill me. This is not a drug. So hopefully I'm gonna get them to be testing the compost now, and I'm hoping that it's okay. I think it will be okay. It's organically certified compost. I'm hoping.
That's the best.
Test it. Just test it. Then the nitrogen sources that you can get, I suggest for the people to do nitrogen to get things like, fish meal or organic cottonseed meal. There's different meals that you can buy. You can buy that in bulk. There's a place up in, Pennsylvania called Portrell. They sell bulk fertilizer, and you can buy it in bulk as a group of farmers, or buy it in bulk, get a plastic trash can, put it in there, keep it dry, keep it away from the elements, and you can use it periodically when you need it. Same thing when there's some phosphorus sources and then potassium sources, which you can buy in bulk from a place called Portrell. They'll send it to you, and like I said, you'll have a 50-pound bag of it. It won't go bad. As long as you keep it dry and keep a cover on it, keep it in a galvanized can or big plastic trash can, you can use it for a long time. So, yeah. So then you can use it that way.
Hey, sir.
Hey,
We have one more question.
Sure.
How does compost testing differ from soil testing? Is there anything different?
a lot of times compost testing, you're testing a lot of times for the biological activity of the compost. But you can also, if you're lucky enough, you can also test for the nutrients in the compost too. Because you definitely need to test for sometimes salt. And you can test for whatever you can test for, you want to test for all those things. It'd be good to know, if you got some compost, if you find it, how much calcium it has in it. If you don't know and you put it on your soil and your calcium level is already high, that's just gonna take it up. So, but the main thing when you're testing compost, they're testing the biological activity. How the microbes are doing, how happy they are in the soil.
Okay.
Is it comfortable for them to be there, for the microbes to be there? Are they doing what they're supposed to do? Because the reason why, for all of these things that you put in the soil, the nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus fertilizers, the bacteria in the soil is what makes them plant available. The bacteria has to work on it and digest it and make them plant available. It ain't like this, you put some stuff down and you put, especially, a liquid fertilizer is different. You might get an active, instant kind of thing in 2 days with that. But when you put a granular down, it takes a while. And the larger that particle is, the more time it takes for it to break down. But it has to be broken down by the microbes in the soil. When microbes in the soil break it down, that's when they make it plant available. That's why it's very important to have the microbes in the soil, because they do a lot. They're the bouncers for the soil. They're breaking stuff down and making it plant available, and stuff that's not good, they're getting it out, they do all that. So, if you did your first year, and maybe, if you guys don't want to do this now, you can just remember this, because I'm going to make this available for you guys, so you can take it with you, or they can send it, so you can do this at another time. But anyway, so after you put all your nutrients in, so your first year in this bed, you're going to put all the crops that, now you can have 4 different beds. You can have one bed where you have all your nitrogen crops in it. You can have another bed where you have crops that need phosphorus in it, all your fruiting vegetables. You can have another bed next bed could be your rooting crops with potassium, and I'll show you that in the next slide, but you can have 4 different beds. And they could be as big or long or as wide as you want them to be. And like I said, but those are the crops, like I said, these crops right here, the ones that really kind of, you know, even though this is somewhat of, I guess you could call this a fruiting crop, the corn, because it does produce a seed from a flower. It's kind of like a fruiting crop. But, nitrogen, the leafy greens, you know, put them in there, and these are your, eggplants, squash, tomatoes, eggplants. And even though these are kind of like in the same family, you still can put them in the same bed. There are some rules, exceptions to some of the rules, so yeah, you can do that. But then like your first year, you can have the leafy green crop, second year fruiting crop, you can have, you know, third year, you can have another bed, a third bed with the, potassium crop that needs potassium in it, you go to the next one, yeah. So that would be your crop, your bed that you put the root crops in. And then the key thing to this whole system is the use of cover crops. The use of nitrogen fixing cover crops. Cover crops is fixed nitrogen. So everybody knows what a nitrogen fixing crop. So crops that fix nitrogen. So peas, beans, clover, whatever you have, some type of nitrogen fixing cover crop in that bed, because you want to really return some of that residue back into the bed. So that'll be your nitrogen for the next year. The nitrogen is one of the most soluble kind of elements. That is the one that really, when it rains or whatever, that's the one that moves first out your soil. He or she is, that's the first one to get out of there. They're gone. And sometimes if you're depending on your soil consistency, soil type, if you have a lot of compost and then you have a lot of organic matter, sometimes it might be held a little better, but sometimes if you don't have if you have a very low organic matter content of your soil, nitrogen is one of the first things that really kind of moves out. Potassium, a little bit, phosphorus, not that much, but you know, they leave in different kind of ways at different times, depending on the rainfall, things like that. Okay, and next one, it's the best one. Oh, man, did I mess that up? Look,
So is that your own slide?
it looked okay when I, no, it looked okay when I sent it.
Oh.
Okay, well, you know what? God watches out for fools and babies, so I'm good. I got this, and you want me to just take a picture of this, because I send it around of these three things, so I would say, you take that, take a picture of it, you take it, if you need to take a picture of it, it'd be better. But basically it shows like spring, summer, fall, winter. I'm sorry this got cut off, but it's on the picture I have. But you can see each of these is very important. Each of these has a cover crop incorporated into it, or some type of cover crop. And another cover crop here. But I would say, you know, if you just, you know, use this as your guide for your garden, what you're doing. And that just gives you a different way to really think about it, you know, how to really look at it, how to plan rotations, but just look at planning rotations by, you know, crop needs and, what the crops need.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What if you have like a perennial plant, like a rhubarb and,
Okay. Yeah.
horseradish?
Okay, so I would say if you have a perennial plant,
You can't rotate.
if you can't rotate it, if you haven't put it in already, if you're planning to plant it, I would make that a very specific place at that bed where this would not be disturbed. I would amend the soil to what it probably needs, that being a root crop, and root crops need potassium. But I would make sure the potassium levels in that area was sufficient for you to have that crop in there. Whatever, however long until it happens. Because you can always come back, like I said, you can always come back and, you know, maybe add some liquid fertilizer, stuff like that, but that's what we're trying to get away from. We're trying to really protect the bay the way we should, by not adding a lot of kind of liquid fertilizers. It's best to use amendments, because these amendments that I'm talking about here are these granular amendments. they're very slow release. With slow release, they don't break down like overnight. It takes a while. Some of the stuff that you put down in the bed in the fall, a very small portion, if any, will be available that year. More will be available the next year, and a little bit will be available the next year, depending on your soil and how much organic matter and how much biological activity you have in the soil. So it takes a while. So that's why I think that maybe these granular fertilizers, we start using these fertilizers, will probably be better for us as far as, people growing in this region. If we're really kind of thinking about the health of that. I would say that could definitely be the case. Instead of using a lot of these liquid fertilizers. They're blaming farmers for doing bad things to the bay. You can say, I did it because I use the granular. I use it. Liquid fertilizer here. It ain't going nowhere. What I put in the ground there is there. It'll be there for the next 2 years, maybe 3 years. It ain't moving. Okay,
So on our forms that we have here,
yeah.
we're copying the year.
Yeah, well, let me just, I just did that to just kind of give the diagram, but if you take that, did you take a picture of what I sent around?
I have.
Okay, yeah, take that. And so what you can do really, you take this home.
Mhm.
It could be kind of like your assignment. And you kind of look at it and then kind of design your beds in your garden, similar to this. But I think one of the main things, like I said, is just incorporating more cover crops into what you're growing. And a lot of times, and don't forget, it helps a little bit if you can inoculate your clover seeds and things like that, do inoculation, because you only have to do that once. Say if you're doing like red clover or something like that, or one kind of clover I kind of used, it's a clover, I guess you could call it clover, but it was sweet blossom yellow clover. And I was happy with it because most clovers don't really grow in the summertime. That was one that grew in the summertime and where I could cover my soil up. I had a choice of probably using that or buckwheat. And a lot of times when you look at the cover crop, you want to find a cover crop that's easy for you to terminate too. Sometimes when you're using rye and some hemp and some of these crops with a real fibrous root system, it's hard to terminate. It's hard to terminate. As the clovers, I found them much easier to deal with. As far as management.
Oh, yeah, I used Brian one time when I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, if you let it get too high.
oh, yeah, I put it in every bed too, and I was like, this.
And like I said, you just have to be able to manage it, because the way I would do rye on my bed, sometimes I would have a bed like a 4x8 bed, I might put rye on it in October. So it would grow up a little bit, and maybe grow up a little bit. And by December, January, it would stop growing. But then as soon as the spring came, the soil temperature warmed up, it started growing again. But that's when I would go in and terminate it. The way I would terminate it, I bought electric kind of, those sickle bar things. So you put a battery in this, it's a long thing, but it just like cuts like that.
Oh, yeah,
So I
that's
bought
what I
that.
ended up doing.
Yeah, and I cut just like a couple inches off here, a couple more inches off here, and all the way down to the bottom. And then I took basically a flat edge spade, and I just chopped it in fine, so I saw very little green left, and then I just planted into it. And the thing about rye, planting into rye is, it's worked very reliable sometimes when you plant a seedling into it. But if you try to drop a seed into it, the rye has something called a leopathy. Leopathy is a root exudator. It's a chemical that puts out, which inhibits seed germination. So if you were to put maybe like, cut that rye down, cut it down, and maybe chop it up, you say, oh, I'm ready to plant, maybe I'm gonna drop a radish seed here, and radish seed there. You might get very poor germination because of the chemical that those roots let off.
Yeah.
That's the only thing about rye. But the other cover crops like clovers and but that's only like the rye and the wheat, the grass cover crops.
Yeah, with, cover, for the person who really don't want to go through all that with ride.
Yeah.
And curl would be the better option. It's easier to turn and
It
it
is.
doesn't get that hot.
It is, but like I'm saying, you have to put it in at the right time. When I found out clover, if you put it in too early and all, it doesn't even germinate because the soil is so warm. When it gets cooled down a little bit, maybe you might get a little growth in like October and November, but then it's getting too cold. But it's guaranteed, it will come back in the springtime.
Yeah, it will come back.
It will come back and it's easy to terminate.
I use it in in the
And then they used to,
Did you use the, red clover?
No.
White clover.
Yeah, the white.
White clover, yeah.
Not use it in the yard.
Yeah.
I use it in the wall.
I had very good luck with that a long time ago, in all my beds, at the farm I was managing, I put white clover in all the rows. The small, it's called white Dutch clover, and it worked great, and I would just, when I wanted to really manage it, I would just come by and get a lawnmower, and raise the lawnmower really high and cut it, and something would come back, but it worked very well, just keep it fast, but also bring the beneficial.
And the groundhog like to eat it.
Oh, that's
In your food.
not good.
Well, they add the extra clover in your food.
Well, that's true too.
So then when you go over and mow it, then they're like, well, I'm gonna eat your garden.
Yeah.
So it's great to plant before you go into your garden.
We relocate around. Hey,
I got one more question.
Okay.
So they said they've known people to do like 9 group of crop rotation, and she asked, is there a benefit to breaking into plant families?
you can, I mean, like, you can try that, I mean, I would play with both of these to see what works for you, but at the end of the day, you just wanna get a crop out, especially if you go into the market, you wanna get something that you can sell. And you wanna get something that's not gonna take a lot of time when you have to worry about diseases in your field. So whatever works, really, you can play with, you can do this different ways and play with it. This is, my reason was just giving you like a different way of thinking about this and maybe looking at this, and kind of say, okay, well, maybe we can do it this way, use different type of fertilizers and protect the environment at the same time, and, Then with another slide after this?
That's it.
Okay, yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also good from a nutrient management perspective.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
big thing,
With
yeah.
your management, so you can, if you ever have, and they ever come and ask you questions like, have you ever had, if you haven't had a nutrient management plan, you can say, well, no, I haven't. Like, if you have, but I've had one, but something's better, it beats a blank, something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And you can have a record of what you put in the soil. It's always good, and you go for organic certification, whatever you want to do, it's always good to know what you're doing. But they're gonna ask you, what did you do for the past 6 years, what are you gonna do for the past 8 years, so, yeah. So, yeah, I hope this helped a little bit, just kind of give you guys another way to look at it. So my last slide was kind of jacked up.
So what's that about ride? What is the remedy for that?
Well, I mean, you can use it, but you just have to have a way to terminate it. Well, you can't let it get too close. So the taller it gets almost more root system.
That's right, and it's difficult
Yeah,
to turn.
it's
It's difficult to turn with by your hands.
But like I said, my ride, when I had it, like I said, I didn't let it get any higher than that.
And even then, that's high.
Yeah, that's good. But if you let it get this high, you need a machine.
Yeah.
You need a machine.
We ended up taking our bid and going to DCF.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it as a cover crop, but like I said, it's just for if you got mechanical ways to everything. Yeah, it ain't nothing to play with it.
So you wouldn't recommend it for like raised beds?
I would, like I said, but you just can't let it get too high.
You have to like lead with it or something and
Yeah,
then
like I
harvest.
said, yeah, I cut it with that weed whacker, the trim I had. And then I would come back with a very sharp kind of square spade, 8-handle spade. And I would just chop it in until I'm almost didn't see any more grain. Then I'd add some compost to it, chop it in more. Then come back and just, at that point, then I come back and put the seedling. Yeah.
How do you test compost? Like, it's not the same way that you test.
No, I mean, there are places that do compost stuff. I mean, but there might be something that you can buy. I think it's called a soil beta test.
Lolita.
That's LOVITA, I think something like that.
And I know like University of Delaware, they have an actual, there's a media test.
Okay, so yes, yes, yeah.
If you order from like a reputable retailer, ideally they should have already done the testing
Yeah, see?
for you. Yeah, and you can request the testing.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's what we've done
If you
sometimes.
purchase it.
We've done that sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're lucky enough, they'll have a sheet like this. They'll have a sheet like this with their test and their comments.
Yeah,
And give it to you. And it's good to have. Yeah. So, yeah, I appreciate everybody and,
Thank you.
happy growing.
Thank you. Any more questions for Che, either online or in the room?
One more question online, is it worth adding a microhyzial fungus?
Mycorrhizae?
Yeah,
I can say this. Possibly, but you know, there's so much snake oil in agriculture. So much snake oil. Everybody got something to tell you. I would say find a way to make it yourself. And make sure, if you get, there's way you can make your soil, but it has more of a kind of fungal kind of colony than probably bacterial. But you need to find out how to do that yourself. Like I said, if you buy the mycorrhiza, if you have a microscope, I can't imagine. If you can't what, you can't manage what you can't measure. I don't know. It might be in there, it might not. I have no idea. But I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but I'm just saying be careful. Be careful. We're out of snake oil.
Well, thank you, Che, for giving us another viewpoint.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times we talk about rotating part of my families, but thinking about what kids need.
Yeah,
Speeding off the boom from one year to the next is really important.
yeah, nutrient management. all that.
Absolutely. And Che is also a nutrient management advisor, so if you have nutrient management questions, I'm sure you can help answer those as well. Yeah.
Oh, you're not the university, right?
Not where you work, right, but you for other people. All right, thank you so much, Che, we really appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
Do you have any events coming up at EDC?
Yeah,
Or Firebird?
yeah, we have, I think we have, in the beginning farmers program we haven't started again.
Okay.
And, I guess the biointensive course we have this time, but I don't have the date. I should have gone for the date. The solar. Maybe I'll try to get those dates to send it to you.
I can send that, because we will be sending out the recording and Che's PowerPoint. And I'll take pictures of his pictures before we, and I'll send those out as well.
Yeah,
Don't forget your markers.
yeah.
Before we move on to introductions and updates, we have another special guest with us this evening, Ms. Monica Newman. Hey, y'all. So come on up. She is a consultant with both the Southern Maryland Ag Development Commission and Future Harvest CASA. And she has a very exciting new role, and so I want her to come and chat with you all tonight. So thank you so much for coming up.
Sure. Hey, y'all. And some of y'all I've met before, some of y'all haven't, so it's a pleasure. My name is Monica Newman. Currently, I am the program director for Future Harvest's Agricultural Leadership Development Initiative Program. We have a member in the house, Haley. So this is a program that is through a grant, 2501. I know we all have heard about what's going on with the federal freeze and things of that nature. But fortunately for us, our program is still running. So fingers crossed, hopefully that program will continue. So also I am the Urban Ag Project Consultant for Southern Maryland's Agricultural Development Commission. So this is more so getting resource information out to farmers in the DMV area, you know, that y'all know that SMAG for short is there. There is grant opportunities funding, so even just figuring out ways to diversify funding. But one of the things that we're big on is community building and network. Is so many of us doing a lot of the same work. Like where is that intersection where we cross? Where can we collaborate? And also just be there for each other. I think now is the time that we're seeing that is definitely important to build unity and combine together. I'm also a member of the Mid-Atlantic Black Farmers Caucus. If folks are interested, you can send an email. We're also on Instagram at Black Farmers Co-op. So yeah, thanks for having me. I have a business card. I have some farming information. This is where you can find resources. And again, I know there's funding folks are looking for different ways to diversify that, so I can share that if anyone wants to. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
All right, so do we have any questions for Monica, either in the room or online? Jason's gonna drop her contact information in the chat box.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you explain more of how, I went through the BFTP program through Eco City. I know that you all used to do like level 1, level 2. What's the difference, or what do participants get out of Aldi versus, say, a BFTP?
So the beginning farmer training program is more so what that means, like, for beginning farmers, well, the
Mhm.
Aldi program is more so for like advanced farmers, people who may already be growing or have land for themselves. Or like, once you get to the beginning farmer training program and you've completed levels 1, 2, 3, what's next? A lot of times folks need help with managing social media, managing QuickBooks, or don't know that you need a farm number, or know that, hey, how do I write grants? How do I go about writing grants? And even getting ideas, what would you do for value added products? How to find funding, even getting access to like farmers markets. So to me, that's the biggest difference. It's more, not saying that the beginning farmer program doesn't have a community, but what we do is we do a mentor mentee, where there's a lot of folks who went through our program that are still in our program, like actually still showing up and guiding farmers. Like a lot of people want land access. Well, most of the time when folks come to Future Harvest offering land access, the land isn't the best. So then we have to figure out ways to, okay, so what can I get this landowner to do for me to come out here and work? Because I'm not gonna put all of my, I don't wanna say intellectual property, but put everything into building up this farmer soil, getting their structure right, creating a space, and then you move, then what? So that's one of the difference. We help guide, your next steps to becoming an actual production farmer.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Go ahead, Jay.
And I can say this, as a farmer who spent a lot of time, my second organic farm that I started up at the market, was based in the land. And then, we did what we had to do, I mean, it was a great relationship, but then, yeah, I guess somebody talked to the owner, the people in the family, and they didn't want it there anymore, so when that happens,
What do you do?
you gotta go.
Right.
It's heartbreaking, but you gotta go. You gotta take up what you had, out there.
How long did you?
I was there at least maybe 3 or 4 years.
Wow, y'all put in a lot of work.
Yeah, and we had, and farm certified organic, it's certified. Yeah. That was,
Right, we don't want that happening.
that was a heartbreak.
It is, that's, so we were talking to like, man, we're gonna have lawyers come and talk, because a lot of the times the farmer isn't getting the best deal.
Yeah,
So how, how do you remedy that?
yeah, I know, yeah. $30 short policy, almost. Take out, you have to go.
Yeah, you gotta go, they say go.
Take your tools and hit the road.
Heartbreaking after.
It's very heartbreaking, very heartbreaking,
You don't own the land.
because you don't own the land.
Yeah.
And that's what we're pushing for, we're like, we
I don't own the
need
land.
to, is there at least an own option? Because we're not gonna be here for 4 or 5 years and now we have to leave, so that's what I'm pushing for, at least it's our own. So
Yeah, I was worth all that. I didn't imagine what happened.
Also, like their capital, I'm trying to think, there's a few groups that are helping
It's like
with that.
private financing,
It,
which is rented over.
it's not Black Dirt Collective.
I don't.
Yeah, there's one that I know, one of our cooperators in the county is using Dirt Capital, I would
Dirt,
say.
yeah, that sounds familiar.
I think they used to purchase a farm. So. Any other questions for Monica or Jay?
Got 2 more.
Okay,
How can farmers measure microplastic in soil, and how are there any guidelines to dealing with it?
That is not.
That's a good question.
Probably. Forever plastics and all that, so. Yeah, I've been looking at literature and I see, there are some literature that they plan to uptaking microplastic, I mean, but I don't know to what extent. So I think I just haven't done more research on it.
thing, yeah.
But yeah, I would just do some little research as far as plant uptake of microplastics. See how that's going on, how they measure it. But that's a very in-depth chemical, analysis. Special machinery and all that. Special lab.
Is there another one or?
That was two-part question.
Okay, great. All right, so we're just gonna kind of do a quick round robin around the room. If you can just say your name or your name and your farm name, where you're growing and what you're growing, keeping it speedy, that would be awesome. And so we'll do the folks in the room first. And if anybody wants to introduce themselves in the chat box, they're more than welcome to. Melanie, I'm gonna have you go first if that's okay.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Melanie. I own and operate Agape Farm in Bowie, Maryland, and I grow food and flowers.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Darylyn Strother. I own and operate farm right on Main Street called Chateau Coco, and I'm growing bees, chickens, and food.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody, I'm Maya. I don't farm or operate, but I am helping the farmers. I'm a soil conservationist of the NRCS, and I work here in this building. But I do grow a few things,
Frederick William Kamani and Cool Kenner. I said the whole government thing. But I run my business called Garden and Beats, which I really like help folks grow their own food, but I also have a acre or two in Largo, Maryland, where I'm growing food as well.
And he has a bunch of events too,
Oh,
so
yeah.
check out his.
Oh, my Instagram, you wanna go to Instagram. My biggest event is coming up on April 23rd, is the day after, Earth Day, and I'm happy to be sitting with Monica. She put this in my head, and so Monica is gonna be co-hosting, but it's gonna be at my job, at Martha's Table. It's gonna start from 5 p.m. where you get to see me cook and create the mocktail there, cause it's like healthy, happy hour. So I'll be cooking bok choy, a garlic bok choy with a brown cilantro rice. And then there's gonna be a limeade, mocktail. And then that's gonna go into a little farmer's market where anybody that comes that can grab some food from Dreaming Out Loud and a couple other, farmers that's gonna be there. Then it's gonna go into our patio overlooking the garden that I run there. And we're gonna just be networking, we're gonna be talking, just one-on-one with each other. You know, me and Monica wants to start a farm school, and I kinda like wanna start a farm school. So we wanna be in the same room, we want people in the same room. And then that's gonna end with Go-Go Fitness, if you wanna get fit, come get fit with, Go-Go Fitness.
Is that the southeast location or the northwest?
This,
location?
southeast location.
Okay.
It's called the Black Garden Social, and that's what it will be tied into my job, Healthy Happy
good.
Hour, which we do every Wednesday. We do that, but now they wanna push me, cause of funding and stuff, so we're cutting back. They're trying to use people inside the office instead of outside the folks. So I'm gonna be cooking with Fred, or AKA Kamani, and that's what it
Fred, I
will be.
like that.
So it's gonna be really good. Monica's gonna be there. Hopefully, we get a lot of people just to come network with each other. Mr. Shea, everybody in this room.
I love
That's for young people, is it for old people like me?
Old people, young people.
Okay. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I'll keep it quick and short. Okay, hey, again, I'm Monica. I'm more specifically a seed farmer. So, we still have seeds in production through True Love Seeds. I grew with Seeded Farm. But now I'm with a social justice and food justice, Niyame Kua. We're growing at Southwest Gardens. It's more so demos to teach the community how to grow. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Kathy, and my farm name is not really a farm name, it's Kathy's Delicious Cakes. But I'm integrating my cake business with the fresh flowers and the fruits and vegetables. And I'm gonna be teaching as well, like how to make the cakes, how to make certain meals with. So I'm in the process of converting everything over.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chanel. The farm name is Chanel Woods. The farm name is Woods and Roots. I'm in the process of changing the name. I will be growing herbs, berries, and vegetables. And also I have chicken, so I have egg production.
Thank you.
I am Sunshine Gray. I don't have a farm, but I do grow at Fort DuPont Park and, at my house in front yard, backyard. And, yeah. Mhm.
Thank you, Sunshine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Farron Smith. I have a farm in Clinton, Maryland. We grow organic produce, fruits, and flowers. And my future farmers here, Logan and Tyler.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Farron is also the chair of our Ag Resources Advisory Committee for the county, so if you ever have policy issues, in ag for the county that you'd like to run by this committee, Farron's your girl.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
So we have some people online asking about the event. We're talking about, Kamani, is there a website or a link?
You can go to my Instagram right now, Garden and Beats. Everything will be out this Friday,
Okay.
to sign up. We're only gonna take about 30 people. So, cause we gotta have like security and all that stuff. Go Fitness is really popular, so there's already gonna be 25 people for that, so we wanna keep it kind of small. It's gonna happen every month. So if you missed this, in April, come in May, come in June.
You said Garden and Beats?
Gardening and Beats.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and if anybody, I don't know, Jason, if you want to popcorn people online to introduce themselves.
Some people log, a lot of people are logging off, but, so Heather here, she wants to introduce herself.
I'm Heather Wright. My husband and I own Right Way Vines. We're a new urban farm in Accokeek, Maryland. We will be growing fruits, vegetables, herbs, and provide eggs from our chickens. Hi.
You need eggs.
We need it.
Anybody else online want to quickly introduce themselves?
I'm John Manirakiza, and I do flavors of Africa, growing Afro-Caribbean food.
Hey, John.
And,
And Lola, hey, Lola.
Hey guys, I'm Lola Bloom. I'm the Urban Agriculture Education Specialist at the Botanic Garden, and I've met some of y'all on your tour of the PF, and I just love every time I'm around you, even though it's virtual, I'm so inspired by everything that's going on, and so I'm just here to learn and listen.
Thanks for coming on, Lola.
Hello.
Hi, sorry. Hi, I'm Farmer Jam, or my name is Jasmine. I'm Farmer Jams. I own and operate Sun Goddess Farms in Upper Marlboro, and I'll be growing diversified specialty vegetables and strawberries. And I was gonna come, but I couldn't because I got a baby on me.
Thanks, Jasmine. Anyone else want to introduce themselves? If not, you can also introduce yourself in the chat box. But with that, I think we're gonna go ahead and conclude our open mic night. We're gonna stop the recording.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna.